It certainly hasn't been easy writing this podcast when the world around me is falling apart. The unreal has become very real. Right now, keeping myself open is the best I can do because something is being born that is still shapeless and undefined. I hope you enjoy the Dementialand Podcast, adding a little humor and maybe even insight to situations that turn our world upside down is what we need right now. My name is Suzka, and this is my story. Episode 23, Dementia Is Not a Solo Sport. We had a number of caregivers in the past months. Their memories, although not remembered in any detail by my mother, remained in the room and stuck to the walls like old cigar smoke. Beside Fiona, I personally could not forget Eszter. Eszter was a full 5'10", 50-plus in age, a widowed woman. Her body type was similar to Ernest Borgnine. She had black shoe polish-like hair that fell to her chin and Picasso eyes with lines that went beyond the lid's properties. Eszter would sit with my mother, talking, playing card games, and generally keeping her company, but there was something about Eszter that I could not put my finger on. I heard Eszter move around the house, but I was never quite sure where she was at any given moment. But it all came down that morning, 6 days into her hire. Eszter arrived 30 minutes late and in a frenzy. She ran first to the adjoining room where she plopped down her bags. In the same rush, she flew to the back room, went straight to the kitchen counter and turned on the radio. En route, she waved and spoke.
Hello, Suzka. I'm sorry I'm so late. The traffic was terrible. An accident. But lucky for me, if I had left my house just seconds earlier, I would have been in that accident. I would have been in the jaws of death.
Eszter moved only her head towards Violet, her fingers moving the radio's knob.
Hello, Mrs. Violet. How are you today?
When she found her radio station, she adjusted the volume knob to room loud. As I sat at the table drinking my coffee, Eszter pulled out 2 pots out of the fridge and put them on the stove. In one pot was dumplings that she made the day before, and in the other was cabbage and tomatoes ready to turn themselves into sauce. Foods for dinner were now breakfast. Violet walked over to the counter and put her nose to the pot.
I don't like it, Suzka. Give me some Ensure, a butter pecan, and find my rhinestone hair clip. I can't find it anywhere.
I kept a close eye on Eszter. Something about this woman made me uneasy. Of course, I've been absent-minded lately, but certain things seem to be disappearing around here. There's that hair clip with the rhinestones, and my lipstick tube. I also notice a few dollars missing from the food jar kept in the kitchen cupboard behind the Cheerios box. I might be terribly wrong, and for that I truly apologize, but this was the time I had to call upon my wits. I knew what I had to do. So, Eszter, how are things working out for you so far? You like my mom? You like being here? Eszter set her bottom down on a kitchen chair. Her smile was wide, her teeth too nervous to stand straight in her gums.
It's working out fine. I can't say how grateful I am. Your mother is so sweet. I like you both very much.
She's guilty. Eszter talked a little bit about herself, her upbringing, her life and its struggles, and she talked about her dead husband who is now living with the angels. The door was open now. I slid into her conversation with such ease, I almost felt guilty in what I was about to do. Oh, Eszter, I understand. My mother has an angel watching over her also, her father. He was a gypsy man with great many powers on both sides, the real world and the spiritual one. I leaned over the table and warmly cupped the top of her hand with mine. I felt a handcuffing gesture of connection between us, fit nicely into the story. Oh, God, Eszter, he loved my mother, and he still does to this day. From the time he died, he never left her side, guiding her and protecting her from anyone who would have any harmful intentions towards her. One time, a man stole a $20 bill out of the side pocket of her purse, and that happened while she was in church. Church! A friggin' church, for Christ's sake! Can you believe that? Who steals from an old woman inside a church? You gotta be pretty low down to steal from a little old lady while she's praying on her beads and talking to the Lord. You'd think he'd know better. Well, that guy got into an accident on the way home and ended up in the hospital. It was bad, very bad. 2 ambulances, they say. Shut down the Eisenhower Expressway. He didn't die or anything. My grandfather's not a revengeful man. He just wanted the thief to know that he should have never messed with his daughter, Violet. I think he lost a leg or got paralyzed or something like that. So I understand angels, Eszter, especially the ones who used to be in the family. They certainly can protect us from all those evildoers. I always felt it was like insurance, a health insurance policy. I was on a roll. Another story followed with barely a breath in between. That night, Eszter left and never returned. She called the next day and said her daughter needed her, and in being a good mother, she would have to quit her job and put her child's needs first. For the next week, I listened to the radio's traffic reports with a little more interest. We were alone for almost a week, my mother and I, before I hired Sovina. That morning, I walked into the back room with the tall windows. It was exceptionally quiet and early. My mother was up and dressed, sitting in her chair, unaware that I had a visitor. A new caregiver was to be arriving shortly. I finished half the coffee in my cup. Outside, the birds were about to stretch their wings. Sovina walked into the room and went to my mother as if she'd known her for years. Sovina's hair was thick, black, and wild, barely kept in check except for the thick braid that went off to one side. Her eyes were like jet black marbles. At first meeting, she looked familiar, as if I've seen her before. There was a fineness about her. She could have easily worked in palaces, caring for children and lady mothers of royalty. My mother stared at Sovina for a second and then turned her head toward me and continued staring as if she no longer recognized my face.
Then who are you?
I'm your daughter, Mom. The word daughter was of little importance, really. Daughter, mother, sister, brother, they were just words. And in all seriousness, I don't think my mother nor I gave much thought to our connection. We both surrendered to our mother-daughterness months ago. Mom, I'd like you to meet Sovina.
Hello, Mrs. Violet. Your daughter invited me here to meet with you. My name is Sovina.
You're not into the voodoo or anything like that, are you?
Oh, no, Mrs. Violet. I'm here to work for you.
Every word was toned in sweetness. She walked directly to Violet and gently adjusted the collar of her silk bed jacket. Sovina started that very day. We worked together for almost 3 years. If there is anything I learned, it's that dementia is not a solo sport. Thank you for listening to the Dementialand Podcast. Stay healthy, wash your hands often, and follow the rules. My name is Suzka.